We've got results from over the weekend. Oh no, here comes Guam. Okay. I have to be honest with you. That's a rare election we did not cover live. There's not a lot of delegates at stake. But you got to keep it 100 here. So Hillary Clinton has won the great territory of Guam. In Guam, the party said Clinton won 60% of the vote to earn 4 of the 7 delegates at stake. Sanders will pick up 3 delegates. Ooh, 4-3. Okay. But let us, for this moment, whisper of a dream. What if Guam is the last territory she wins? That might not even be the case. And even if it was, it might still not be enough. But wait! Here comes the great state of Washington. Now, a lot of people have been wondering, geez, Lord mercy, what is going on with all those delegates in Washington that won't go up on the board? It makes Hillary Clinton's lead seem artificially higher because Bernie Sanders won Washington convincingly, tremendously, as Trump would say, right? Yet a lot of the delegates didn't get counted. That's because they had to wait for a district-by-district count based on how Washington does its elections, the primary elections. So now those results are in, and it's a big batch that has gone to Bernie Sanders, hashtag feel the burn. All right. In Washington State, Sanders handily won the caucus on March 26th, as the Associated Press explains. When the Vermont senator won 25 of the 34 delegates awarded that day, an additional 67 district-level delegates could not be divided up until the state party could produce vote data broken down by congressional districts. District-level data provided Saturday to the Associated Press shows that Sanders will pick up 49 of those delegates, while Clinton will receive 18. So although she won the election over the weekend, which is Guam, Bernie Sanders picks up a far bigger delegate load because the state of Washington coming in clearly now with who's got more delegates there. But we're not done. Meanwhile, at Maine State Convention on Saturday, party officials said Sanders ultimately gained 1 additional delegate and Clinton lost 1 after he picked up additional support following the state's March 6th caucus. Here comes Bernie! Okay, now that little change in Maine is enough to overcome the resulting Guam alone. Now, are all of these enough? So that is a very fair question. So now let's break it down for you. Now, the Associated Press, in this article, the reporting of this overall actually gives you the truth on both sides. The way they frame it, though, is interesting. First, let me give you the reality. Based on primaries and caucuses to date, Clinton now has 1,705 delegates, while Sanders has 1,415, or a lead of 290 delegates, according to the AP count. Now, that's real, and that is a significant lead for Hillary Clinton, and that will be very hard to overcome for Bernie Sanders going forward. Whether you like that reality or not, it is reality, okay? So you can't be like Republicans and have a war on math. That's the real math. Okay. Now, unfortunately, the rest of the press does have a war on, not on math, but on the reality that superdelegates have not voted. Okay, they vote later in the process. And the whole point of the superdelegates is to decide whether the person who has won the most pledged delegates has some sort of liability that would overcome the voting. Now, for example, they were in some sort of massive trouble, legal trouble, polling trouble. Who could that be? Okay, anyways, the superdelegates have not voted, but the Associated Press mentions the vote count that includes them both at the beginning of the story and at the conclusion of the story. By the way, if you've never studied psychology, every study shows you that people are most likely to remember what is at the beginning of the story and the end of the story, right? And they mentioned it twice as opposed to the real count, which they only mentioned once. So here's their sentence on that. She now has a total of 2,228 delegates, they say, or more than 93% of the 2,383 delegates needed to win. Sanders has 1,454. Now, they mentioned this in the beginning. That's them mentioning it at the end and not mentioning the fact that those count superdelegates, which to their credit they had mentioned earlier. So at the end of the article, you're left with this incredibly misleading idea that she already has 93% of what she needs. Now, if that was true and the superdelegates had already voted, then I would tell you to wrap it up, man. There's no way in the world she's not going to get that extra 7% because the rest of it is proportional voting. Even if she got routed in the remaining states like New Jersey and California, she would easily pick that up. Now, by the way, will the superdelegates stay with her? If all things being equal, yes, they will. So that's why I'm telling you, Bernie Sanders winning is improbable. Now, the one scenario where they don't necessarily stay with her is some sort of event that happens in the next 6 weeks that is unforeseen or perhaps foreseen, like there's an FBI investigation of her happening right now. I keep mentioning that not because I want to rub it in or tell you to, oh my God, it's definitely going to happen. I mention it because that is the one thing that the superdelegates were designed to take into account and might actually happen in the next 6 weeks. So you can't discount it entirely. So if that was not hanging over her head, then you say, okay, play out the string, but it's very, very likely, overwhelmingly likely that she has won. Here we have a unique situation where it might be slightly different. But either way, saying that she's got 93% of what she needs by counting the superdelegates is misleading. It's just not true. So by the way, how much does Bernie Sanders need to overtake her in pledged delegates? Now that is important and it is relevant. So here they explain that. If he hopes to overtake her based on just those primary and caucus delegates, he still must win 66% of the remaining delegates, a figure unchanged from before. Now, that is a big number, guys. That's why I keep telling you, man, I want you to be hopeful. I'm going to vote. I'm still Sanders. The California primary is coming up, and how much she wins by, even if she pulls out the victory in pledged delegates, still matters in case there is some sort of trouble ahead and the superdelegates decide the race, okay? It is definitely still relevant. Having said that, getting 66% of the votes going forward is extraordinarily difficult. And you have to be realistic about that. But it is not impossible. It is completely different math than if you include the superdelegates. So if you don't include them, even if there's no indictment, it is theoretically possible that he could get 66% of the delegates going forward. But again, there would have to be some dramatic shift in even the voting dynamic in states going forward. Okay, so that's the reality, and I don't know if that makes you happy or unhappy, whether you're a Sanders or Clinton supporter, but those are the odds as we stand.